Hello my friend, welcome back to English Story Hub. Today I want to tell you about a day I will never forget. My very first job interview. I share this story because I know many of you will face the same moment, and I want you to learn not only English words, but also how to prepare your mind and your heart. That morning I woke up before the alarm. My chest was heavy. My heart was beating fast. I felt pressure, that invisible weight you carry when you know something important is about to happen. Maybe you also felt this before an exam or a big presentation. My clothes were ready, my documents were ready, but my mind was full of questions. What if I fail? What if I forget my words? And yet, inside that fear, there was also determination, the decision to move forward even when the road feels difficult. Determination gives you energy like a small fire inside your chest. I whispered to myself, this is not just an interview. This is my chance to prove I am ready. The night before the interview, I sat at my desk with the job description open. I read each line carefully, noticing the keywords. Teamwork, detail, problem solving. I repeated them softly, as if practicing new vocabulary. Then I asked myself simple questions. When did I show teamwork? When did I prove I pay attention to details? How did I solve a problem under pressure? For each question I wrote a short answer, just a few sentences. Not to memorize, but to remind myself that I already had the stories. Later I stood in front of the mirror. My voice was shaky at first, then stronger. I smiled, adjusted my shirt and told myself, "You belong here." Those 3 words gave me more strength than sleep or coffee. When I finally placed my resume in the bag, I still felt nervous. But under that nervousness there was a quiet belief that real preparation is not only about clothes or papers, it is about knowing your own story and telling it with clarity. When I arrived at the company, I felt the nervous energy in my chest, but this time it was different. I had my resume in my bag, my notes in my hand, and the stories in my mind. Every late night of study, every project I had finished, every small challenge I had solved, they were all with me. Sitting in the waiting area, I looked around at the other candidates, but I didn't compare myself. Instead, I reminded myself of the preparation I had done. I knew my strengths, I knew my answers, and I knew why I was here. So I straightened my back, took one slow breath and whispered, "I am ready." In that moment, the nervousness didn't control me anymore. It became focus, and focus gave me confidence. When my name was called, I stood up, adjusted my shirt, and walked toward the interview room. My steps were steady, not too fast, not too slow. As I opened the door, the first thing I noticed was the light. Bright, clear, almost too sharp for my eyes. 2 people were waiting inside, sitting behind a table, with a bottle of water between them. I smiled and said, "Good morning, thank you for having me." My voice was calm because I had practiced this exact moment in front of the mirror. One of them smiled back and nodded. That small exchange already gave me confidence. I sat down, placed my resume neatly on the table, and kept eye contact. Not too long, just enough to show respect. Everything I had prepared, the clean clothes, the short answers in my mind, the belief I carried, helped me to feel grounded. The truth is, the first minute speaks louder than the next 30. And in that first minute, I showed them I was ready, not only to answer questions but to be part of their team. The first question was simple. "Can you tell us about yourself?" I smiled, took a breath, and gave a short answer. Not my whole life story, just 3 things. My background, 1 skill, and 1 strength. It was enough to introduce myself without losing their attention. The next question came quickly. "Why do you want this job?" Because I had studied the job description, I already knew the words they cared about. I said clearly, "I want this job because it matches my skills in teamwork and detail. I also believe I can grow here and add value to your team." Short, focused, and connected to their needs. Then they asked, "What is your biggest strength?" I didn't hesitate. I said, "I am good at problem solving. When I face a challenge, I stay calm and look for solutions step by step." I gave 1 short example, no more than 2 sentences, to prove it. In those first minutes, I understood something important. You don't need long answers to impress. You need clear answers that show preparation, honesty, and connection to the role. That was the real key. Then came the question I had feared the most. What is your biggest weakness? For a second my mind went blank. This was the trap question. If I said none, it would sound arrogant. If I listed too many, I would look unfit for the job. So I paused, took a breath, and answered with honesty, but also with strategy. I said, sometimes I spend too much time checking small details. I want everything to be perfect. But I've learned to manage this by setting a clear time limit for review, so I don't slow down the whole process. Their heads nodded. My weakness was real, but my solution showed growth. In that moment, I realized something powerful. An interview is not about being flawless. It is about showing self-awareness, the ability to see yourself clearly, and responsibility for improving. That turns a weakness into proof that you can adapt. Then came a question I never expected. One interviewer leaned back, looked straight at me, and asked, if you failed at something important, how would you explain it to your team? My chest tightened. It was a question about weakness, responsibility, and honesty, all at once. I paused, and for a second I thought of the safest answer. I always try not to fail. But that would sound empty. So I took a deep breath and said something different. If I failed, I would admit it openly. I would explain what went wrong and, more importantly, what I learned. Because failure is not the end, it's feedback. The room was quiet for a moment. Then one of them smiled. I felt my own voice grow stronger as I added, if I can turn a mistake into a lesson, then the team can trust me more, not less. That answer surprised even me. It didn't come from my notes, it came from my heart. And in that moment, the nervousness broke into something brighter, a wave of relief, of freedom. I realized I didn't need to be perfect. I only needed to be real, and real was enough. When the interview was almost over, they asked me, do you have any questions for us? For a second I felt the pressure again. This was my last chance to leave a mark. I didn't want to ask about salary or benefits. Anyone could do that. I wanted to show I cared about something deeper. So I looked at them and asked, what makes you proud to work here? The manager paused, then smiled. His voice softened as he said, it's the people. Even on the hardest days, we don't give up alone. We push forward together. That answer hit me. I felt my nervousness fade into something stronger. Inspiration. I realized a job is not only about tasks or paychecks. It's about belonging, about being part of a place where values and people matter. Walking out of the room, I wasn't just hoping for an offer. I was carrying a new belief. The right question can open a door, not only for the job, but for real connection. And that is what truly leaves an impression. When I walked out of the building, I felt lighter but also sharper. My head replayed the whole interview, the answers I gave, the pauses I took, the way I managed my nerves. That reflection itself was already a lesson. Reflection means looking back to learn, not just to remember. I realized 3 things. First, preparation works. Every note I wrote, every practice answer in front of the mirror, gave me structure when the pressure was high. Second, adaptability matters. When they asked me questions I didn't expect, I paused, thought, and still delivered. That is adaptability, the ability to adjust in real time. Third, confidence is built, not born. It came from action, from stepping into the room even when I was afraid. The result of the interview was still unknown, but the result for me was clear. I had grown. That growth was not only in English words or in interview skills, but in mindset. Mindset means the way you see challenges, as barriers or as opportunities. That day I chose opportunity. And that's the message I want you to take. Every interview, every challenge is training. You gain vocabulary, you gain skills, you gain resilience. Each step makes you stronger for the next. Walking out of that interview, I understood something simple but powerful. Preparation builds confidence, clarity builds trust, and every challenge builds growth. Even if the result is uncertain, the experience always leaves you stronger. So here's my message for you. Don't fear the interview room, see it as training. Each time you gain skills, resilience, and belief in yourself. That is real progress. Now I'd love to hear from you. What's one lesson you've learned from your own interview or challenge? Write it in the comments, your story may help someone else. And if this episode gave you value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with English Story Hub for more stories, more learning, and more inspiration.